All right, let's dive in. Whether you're dreaming of that corner office or you're just trying to get your team to work a little better together, you are in the right place. Today, we're going to crack open the manager's toolkit and look at the fundamental ideas that make any organization, big or small, actually work. Let's get to it.
So let's start with the little thought experiment. What could the CEO of some massive, globe-spanning company possibly have in common with the manager of your favorite local coffee shop? Well, you might be surprised to hear that the answer is a whole lot, because at the end of the day, they're both using the exact same playbook to get things done.
And that playbook, that fundamental process, is management itself. So what is it, really? When you strip everything else away, management is simply the art of getting things done through other people.
Now, the most important word in that whole definition is process. See, management isn't just a title on a business card. It's an active, ongoing thing you do. It's all about coordinating. It's like you're putting together a giant puzzle, right? You've got all these different pieces, people, money, supplies, and your job is to fit them all together to create the big picture.
So what are those puzzle pieces? Well, pretty much every manager on the planet is juggling these four key resources. You've got your material resources, the actual stuff you need like steel for cars. You have human resources, that's your people. Then there are the financial resources, the cash you need to keep the lights on. And finally, you've got informational resources, all the data and knowledge that helps you make smart decisions. A manager's job is to blend all four of these and blend them well.
Okay, so how do they actually do that blending? This is where we get into the manager's playbook. The entire process of management really boils down to four core functions. These are the moves that turn resources into real results.
First up is planning. This is the thinking part of the job. It all starts with a mission, like how Twitter's original goal was to let anyone share ideas with the world, instantly. Then, managers use tools like a SWOT analysis to get a lay of the land, looking at their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. From there, they build a strategic plan. And Tesla is a perfect example of this. They didn't just show up and start selling electric cars to everyone. Nope, they had a plan. Start with a super high-end sports car to build hype and cash, and then use that to eventually build cars for the rest of us. That's planning in action.
So, once you have that brilliant plan, you've got to organize everything to make it a reality. This is all about building the structure. Who's on what team? Who reports to who? Who's in charge of what? Organizing is what turns a great idea on a whiteboard into a real, functioning operation.
Of course, a perfect plan and a slick organizational chart don't really mean much without the people, right? And that's where leading and motivating come in. This is the human side of things. It's not just about barking orders. It's about inspiring your team, influencing them, and giving them a reason to care about the shared goal.
And finally, there's controlling. Now, I know, it sounds a little harsh, but it's really just about course correction. It's a simple three-step loop. First, you set a standard, a clear goal, like increase profits by 12%. Second, you measure your actual performance against that goal. And third, if you're off track, you take corrective action to get back on course. It's a constant cycle of check, adjust, repeat.
Now, while that four-step process is pretty much universal, a manager's day-to-day job can look wildly different depending on where they sit in the company hierarchy. So let's take a look at the different levels of the management team.
This table lays it out pretty clearly. Way up at the top, you've got your C-suite execs, the CEO, the COO. They're thinking big picture, mission, strategy, where the company is headed in 5 or 10 years. Then you've got your middle managers. They're the translators, taking that big picture strategy and turning it into actual plans for their teams. And then you have your first-line managers, the supervisors, the office managers. They're on the ground dealing with the daily stuff and motivating the team directly. Every single level is absolutely critical.
Okay, so we know what managers do and where they do it, but what does it actually take to be good at this stuff? What are the skills you need? Let's pop the hood on their essential toolkit.
The best managers have a healthy mix of these 5 key skills. You've got to be able to think big, solve problems, work with people, know the technical side of the business, and, of course, communicate clearly. Let's just zoom in on that first one for a second, conceptual skills, because this one is a real game changer.
So, what is a conceptual skill? Put simply, it's the ability to see the forest for the trees. It's being able to understand how all the different parts of the organization, from marketing to engineering to sales, all fit together to accomplish the main mission. And the higher up you go in management, the more crucial this skill becomes.
And this is a fantastic example. Back in the day, Amazon was losing a ton of money. A lot of people thought it was a crazy idea, but Jeff Bezos had that conceptual skill. He could see the big picture. He held on to his vision of this everything store. And that long-term perspective is what turned it into the giant it is today.
This brings us to two of the absolute most important things a manager does: leading their team and making key decisions. These are the high-stakes moments that really define a manager's success or failure.
Now, when it comes to leadership, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. It's really a spectrum. On one end, you've got the autocratic style. It's very task-oriented. The manager says, here's what we're doing, and here's how, and that's that. On the other end, you have the participative style, where the manager brings the team into the decision-making process. And you know what? Neither one is always right or always wrong. The best leaders know how to adapt their style to the situation.
Which leads to the obvious question, right? How do managers and leaders choose what to do? Whether it's picking a leadership style for a project or solving a huge, messy problem, it all comes down to having a good process.
The best decisions usually follow these 4 steps. First, you have to identify what the real problem is, not just the symptoms. Then, you brainstorm a bunch of different ways you could solve it. You weigh the pros and cons, and then you select the best alternative. But, and this part is key, you don't stop there. You actually implement the solution and then circle back to evaluate if it worked. It's a disciplined way to make much smarter choices.
So as you can see, management isn't some mystical gift that only a few people are born with. Not at all. It's a process. It's a set of functions. It's a collection of skills. It's a toolkit that anyone can learn to use. We've just laid all the tools out on the table for you. The only question left is, how are you going to use them?